I'm Richard Green. I want to share with you some memories that I have of my grandmother, Bertha Denson, who was called Birdie. She was a very unusual woman because in the late 1930s she broke her husband's will after he had died, and she took over the Eastern Corrugated Container Corporation and ran it until my father and my uncle took it over from her in the early 1960s. Even in the 1960s, I can remember when I worked there that she would come in on Thursdays once a month, and she would look at the books while the corporate accountant sat nearby, and my father and my uncle Paul stood behind her ready to answer any questions she might have. She was fully conversant with all the aspects of the business and was capable of asking detailed questions. She was the kind of person who, had this been 10 years in the future, she might have ended up on the cover of Forbes magazine. She was an extremely forceful person, and quite frankly, she could be a little scary at times, although I wouldn't overemphasize that. To us children, she was just a loving grandmother, and she had a wrap, a fur wrap, where the little heads of the mink were still on the paws. And naturally, as children, we loved this kind of thing. And that's where we knew her more than as a business owner. But a business owner she was, and everything that she did in her life was affected by the question, how would this affect the business? Here is a picture of Birdie, Bertha Denson, looking at the corrugator, which was a relatively new machine at that time, in the sense it was newly purchased. In about 1950, the Eastern Corrugated Container Corporation moved from the Brooklyn Navy Yard in Brooklyn to Clifton, New Jersey. And they did this so they would have enough factory space to buy a corrugator. Previously in Brooklyn, Eastern Corrugated had been what's known as a sheet plant. They bought sheets of corrugated cardboard from other producers, and then they cut them up and scored them and pasted them and made them into boxes, and then sold the boxes. They did not make their own corrugated cardboard. When they moved to Clifton, New Jersey, they began buying huge 1 and 2 ton rolls of paper from companies like Packaging Corporation of America. They put these rolls of paper on a corrugating machine, and the corrugating machine built the sandwich of papers, that little inner squiggle you find inside a corrugated sheet of corrugated paper, sandwiched between two what are called liner boards. And that made the corrugated sheet, which was then cut up. I cannot stress enough how important the acquisition of a corrugator was to the Eastern Corrugated Container Corporation. It was like stepping from the minor leagues into the big leagues of paper production. And I like to think that the pride of stepping into the big leagues, of playing with the big guys, is what shows on Birdie's face in this picture. She's determined. She's going to make it work. Other people around her are going to work hard, just like she did, and they're going to be a big success. That's what my father and my uncle always wanted. They wanted to be successful producers of corrugated cardboard, and here was their chance.